Please welcome to the stage Heather Gerken and Maribel Pérez Wadsworth.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling? Fantastic. Heather, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You keep a schedule that, frankly, takes my breath away, and I have a crazy one, too. So amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Heather Gerken, the new president of Ford Foundation. I can tell you, I let out a cheer in my office when I saw the announcement. I had the pleasure to have worked with Heather previously, before the idea of Ford even was a thing, while you were the dean at Yale Law School. I called Heather because I had this idea to pull together election law training for journalists. This was ahead of the 2024 elections, and I made this one call, and the next thing I knew, I had every genius expert lawyer on election law in the country.
And I had every journalist in the country, so it worked perfectly.
So there the partnership began.
Yes, exactly.
I'm delighted to now have you as a colleague in philanthropy. So welcome. I mean, has it been 100 days?
Not yet. I'm almost there, 90 days. So.
Like 90 days, but who's counting?
Yes, exactly.
So how's it been so far?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, I come from outside philanthropy, but foundations do the work that makes the work possible, and right now the work could not be more important. So, I wake up every day helping people do work to support our democracy, to preserve the rule of law. I mean, how could you not be happy in that moment?
No, it's so true. And so our intention here is less interview, more conversation.
Yeah, anyway, it's always intimidating to be interviewed by...
No. She's already told me she's putting me on the spot, so just fair warning. What surprised you?
I guess one thing that has surprised me in doing this work is just how many people are pitching in at this moment. I think it can be a little invisible at moments like these, but just to see, especially across the political spectrum, the number of people in this country who are standing up for the rule of law, who are protecting the election system, it is truly inspiring. And it renews your faith in the world.
It really does. And we've had a lot of those conversations over these 2 days. I mean, just average Americans standing up for their rights and standing up for their neighbors, and it's truly inspiring. You're stepping into this role at a truly unique moment. Democracy is under great strain here and all over the world, really. You've established democracy, obviously the rule of law is a clear focus, clearly your expertise as well. How do you think about the urgency of this moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's why I took this job. The Ford Foundation has had this really storied tradition of doing this work. During the McCarthy era, it protected free speech and dissent. It got a lot of blowback. It was a huge funder of the civil rights movement and got a lot of blowback. It built the backbone for public interest litigation. So that has been, it's in its DNA. And the work of the Ford Foundation is also the work of my life. I'm an academic, but I've always had one foot in each world. And the chance to really be in the fray and support the work that matters is astonishing at this moment because, being in the academy was great, but you feel a little bit like you're on the sidelines for the work that's important. And I will just say, I am always the calm person in the room, telling everyone not to worry. And I'm not worried in the sense I am enormously optimistic about our chances, but it is going to take work to get us through this period. And we are in a situation that is unlike, I think, any we've seen in at least recent memory.
So you stopped yourself from saying you're worried. You focus on the optimism. What's making you optimistic?
What's making me optimistic is it's an all hands on deck moment.
Yeah.
And to see, so one of the things I worry about most is elections, so you all are going to be reporting on this. We need to have free and fair elections. We need election administrators. We need election administrators just to be able to do their job. These are folks I've known all of my career. They're an astonishing group of people doing a very hard job in normal days under hard circumstances, but with the level of polarization, misinformation, the kinds of challenges we see ahead, it is astonishingly important that they are able to do that work. And what's been great is to see people from every part of the political spectrum, people from states and localities all the way up to the nationals, really thinking hard about how to create space for election administrators just to do something simple, which is their job, to make sure that whatever the outcome of the election, that it accurately reflects the will of the people. And that is, it seems crazy that we're talking about that.
That's right.
It
seems crazy that we have to clap about the idea of having
yes,
free
no,
and
it
fair
is.
elections.
It is exactly right.
Yeah.
But it is, and the same with the rule of law. The rule of law is a nonpartisan position, right?
Right.
So I always say, my friend Ben Ginsberg, who was Romney Cheney counsel, you know Ben well,
Yes. Yeah.
right? If Ben and I cannot agree on something, it is not the rule of law. The rule of law, for those of you who aren't lawyers, I know lawyers annoy the crap out of all of you because we argue about everything, but the thing about a professional group that argues about everything, is that we also know, after arguing for a century, laying waste to every counter-argument, there are things for which there is no argument on the other side. That is the rule of law. And seeing lawyers across the United States, not all of them, but many of them standing up for the rule of law has also just been completely inspiring.
Yes, for sure, for sure. We have in this room a lot of different folks, leaders across many different sectors, but yes, to your point, a lot of journalists. What can they do in this moment?
Okay, so I don't want to get all school marmy on you. The one thing you should really do, I will just say, is watch the video of the thing that we put together, which had 3 of the finest people in the field talking about the mistakes that journalists make. Because these mistakes are not intentional, they are not malicious, it's because the election system is complicated, and it's really easy to think that when you see something going on that there's a problem.
Yeah.
So just to name some examples. One is people don't know how long it takes to count ballots. And
Right.
so they see a delay and they think that something must be going on.
Right.
People don't realize the system is decentralized and it's a little messy.
That's right.
So it's often, when we see Florida 2000, Ohio 2004, those things happen in every election, every time. It's just usually not that close. And because election administrators often have a partisan hat, people assume a partisan controversy
That's
or
right.
plot rather than this is just what happens in a system that's a little bit messy. And what people also don't know is how many protections there are against all of these things. The system is built to self-correct, but you have to give it the time and space to self-correct. So if I were just advising journalists, is one, really get up to speed on what's going on in your state or locality. Pennsylvania is really different from California,
That's
which is
right.
really different from North Carolina. 2, you should keep an eye on the litigation that's happening in advance of the election. So lawyers in the election world, they do pre-files, right? They try to mostly pick their judge, and they're filing for a reason, but they're anticipating problems. You should be really familiar with that work. 3, if I can just say, give election administrators the space to be human. Most of them are people of extraordinary good faith. And if you just think for a second, the holy fires of hell are going to rain down on some subset of election administrators for reasons that have nothing to do with who they are or what they're doing. The key is to let people do their jobs. And if you let people do their jobs, then we are going to have an appropriate election outcome.
I think it's such an important reminder, and really the time is now. I mean, the election we're thinking midterms just in November.
Right around the corner.
So the time is really now to make sure that our communities are educated about the election process in their state, in their municipality, who the election supervisor is, how it works, how the counting of the ballots work. It's going to be different everywhere, and so having that information in the hands of voters and citizens is really, really important.
Yeah, I got to ask you if it's all right with. I mean, it's not just elections that are under stress, right? It's journalism.
That's right.
I mean, this is the moment when the First Amendment has mattered more than ever, and you have been a crusader for it. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what the work that you're doing and what you're worried about.
Yeah, look, I mean, like you feeling about, coming to Ford, it's your life's work. This is my life's work. I've given my entire career to the First Amendment, in journalism specifically, as a means of keeping communities informed and exercising that very important part of the First Amendment. But as everyone here knows, I mean, I feel it's the ballgame. And when I think about the unique role of philanthropy, we sit in this place, a unique place in civil society where we're well-resourced, we have great influence, we have independence, and if organizations like that are not equipped and ready to step up and to speak on the values and defend core things, core principles like the First Amendment, then I think we're getting it wrong. We have to do that so that others feel equipped to also stand their ground on what is really everything in democracy. Without the First Amendment, we have nothing else. So that's first and foremost. I feel that very acutely. And then in our very unique night way, how does that manifest then in our support of all of the sectors that we care about? That really the through line, again, goes back to the First Amendment. Certainly supporting the journalism world, supporting artistic free expression, supporting independent academic research that helps us to make sense of all that's going on in that information ecosystem. All of these things together are crucially important.
Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit? I mean, so this is the most fun thing today is about our job is we get to meet our grantees.
Yes.
Because we really do the work that makes the work possible, but it is the work that matters.
Yeah.
And I was talking to some folks who are doing local journalism that's really astonishing. But boy, does one worry about these sectors. And you've, again, been doing so much in this arena. How are you thinking about local journalism?
Look, I think we have to really think about the entirety of the ecosystem. It is not any one piece. I think that there's been a lot of experimentation in business models. People talk about the nonprofit sector. They talk about digital media. They talk about, any number of things, public media. We're at a stage where we need every single player on the field. I want to make sure that our for-profit media can be strong, that our public media can be strong, that our not-for-profit media can be strong, that small independent journalists in community can be strong. And we see examples of that all across the board. We've had so many come across the stage this week already, from smaller organizations, very niche, the Sahan Journal in Minnesota, that was born, I think, almost 10 years ago, and laser focused on its immigrant community in Minnesota, and vitally important to that community. It doesn't have to be a huge national thing. If it's vitally important to an audience and that audience sees value and feels informed and feels equipped to participate in their community, that organization is doing an amazing job. And I see it too, and sticking with Minnesota, since that's been a lot of the theme, the Minnesota Star Tribune. Long-standing, legacy newspaper, but in expansion mode, doing the vital work of keeping their community safe and informed. We need all the players. Public media, Ford came to the table right alongside Knight and MacArthur to help intervene in emergency funding for public media. I think we need to step back and think about a redefinition of what public media is. I don't think we can come back and, just reinvent or bolster the existing public media system. I feel it is incumbent upon us to get to a place where having access to reliable information in your community is as standard as access to clean water. We must have that, or we don't have the basis of connection and ability to engage and participate in our communities, and the threads of democracy just fray.
Yep. Yeah, and I will just say, I think that's one of the things foundations can do. So when I think about what's the work we're doing, we're really focused right now on the election that's coming and defending the rule of law, but it's not enough.
No.
Right? We need to dream a new democracy into existence, and we need to think about how do we build a democracy that can withstand the kinds of pressures that it's facing right now. And with love for all my brothers and sisters in the academy, it can't just be left to academics.
No.
To do that work, you have to have the people who are in the field right now, who know how the world works, who know how to get from here to there, but they are all in the trenches. And so for foundations, I think, to be able to create the space for people to imagine, to think about what comes next, and then to help build it. I mean, that is why foundations matter.
Absolutely. Along those same lines, we've talked a lot this week about the vital role of trust. There's a lot of discussion and certainly a lot of research on the fact that trust in institutions continues to decline, and that decline is accelerating. What role do you think we in philanthropy can play in helping to rebuild trust in our institutions?
It's a great question. I think there are a couple things that we can do. And one of the most important things to do is work across lines. And that's a hard thing to do at this moment in time. But I think that one of the ways that we show that we are trustworthy is we live out our principles in a principled way. And so one of the things that I did as dean is I really looked for opportunities to build common ground in a way that was mission driven. So we went from 1% veterans to 10% veterans when I was dean. We created a Crossing Divides program. We hired public law conservatives. We created an entrepreneurship clinic and a religious freedom clinic. All of those things were part of our mission. But it was also a way to demonstrate that we were open, that we were engaged in this in a principled way, that we followed our principles where they go.
Yes.
And I think one of the loveliest things about foundation land, as I call it, is this new territory that I've discovered, is actually how much cooperation there is among foundations. The foundations are really united with one another. They're working across lines. We don't agree on everything. We are wildly eclectic in our approaches, but we're able to find that common ground and build out together because the world depends on us. We talk about the First Amendment. The world depends on the freedom to give as much as it depends on the freedom to speak. So that is why it's so important to protect the foundations, because they are the ways that nonprofits and speech gets funded and gets supported and isn't just someone standing on a soapbox, because being on a soapbox is the least powerful spot in the world, but we can give power to the ideas and expressions of everyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the freedom to give, again, according to our values, according to its principles, there's no more First Amendment than that, for sure. Speaking of the First Amendment, what do you, putting on your legal hat in foundation land for a moment, what do you see as some of the bigger threats from a First Amendment perspective?
For foundations? Yeah, I mean, I think that the efforts to pull out 501c3 status are really serious. An endowment tax, so we're not like a place, we don't have a source of revenue.
That's right.
An endowment tax would crater our ability to support the nonprofit world in eternity, for perpetuity. I think there's a set of accusations that are being thrown around, which are wildly inaccurate, but dangerous. I think there's a real danger of being buffeted at a moment like this, because the winds are blowing and you got to steer that ship straight towards your North Star. Those are the kinds of things that I think foundations have not really seen in a very long time, and it's really good to be doing it together. I come from higher education. That is a place that did not do this together.
That's right.
And you can see what the results were. I come from the legal profession, which is another place where people were not doing it together. But the foundations really are together, and that is going to make a big difference to every single nonprofit, every single journalist, everyone who's supported by the foundations, because it's going to really matter for them as well.
It's going to matter a lot, and I will tell you that has been a marked difference for me from year one to year two. I think in the sort of vein of never let a good crisis go to waste, I think watching the law firms, the universities, all come under these kinds of First Amendment attacks led foundations to really think about what it means to be unified and thoughtful and collaborative in this moment. And I think that's been an advantage.
Yeah. So what gives you hope at a moment like this?
Goodness, look at this room. I mean, honestly, it's been an enormous shot in the arm. People say, aren't you tired? Yeah, I'm actually a little exhausted today, no lie. But it has been such a source of energy to be in the room with so many grantees, so many partners, so many people who are in it, fighting the good fight every day, who themselves have hope and optimism, who are relying on each other, who are partnering. It's tremendous. I mean, we had 3 young people on the stage, just a couple of hours ago, talking about the ways in which they have, led initiatives in their own communities to, connect their community to, how to participate in their government, how to understand it better, how to create space for culture and connection among, the Latino community in Charlotte. I mean, it's so gratifying to see that people are not sitting back, and they never have been, by the way. This is our way. I mean, we lean in. As a people, we care about one another. I'm tired actually of all the talk about all of the polarization, because the truth is those poles are poles, right? They're on the extremes. The vast majority of us are not that, and so that gives me, honestly, it's very animating to recognize that. And so when you're in a room with 1,200 people who represent that, the vast majority, 80%. Who are actually rational, caring, good neighbors. That's really, it's heartwarming.
Yeah. Well, and you helped create all of it, so it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I will say I just got back from, which is why I'm a little jet lagged, but a trip to East and West Africa, because we have offices all over the world. And
yes.
My view on this one is, if you are feeling even a little glum about where things are right now, you should go abroad, because the things that we are experiencing in this country have been blowing through a lot of the rest of the world. And what was amazing to me was people were working under conditions that I think are impossible.
Yeah.
And they were optimistic and strategic and pragmatic and winning victories. And it just fills up the gas tank.
That's right.
To see it, and makes you think, like, I will never whine again, ever, about anything. I promise my husband, no, because it just reminds you just how resilient people are and civil society is, and how much more work there is to do.
It's such a good point. I mean, we have seen this. I mean, I think we're all feeling this particular moment of sort of real stress and strain in our own value system here, but when you see some of the things that others across the rest of the world have to endure, and do so with incredible heart and passion, and it's really important and inspirational.
Yeah, and I've been proud of the lawyers, but also I just want to say to all the journalists in the room, you all have been heroes. It's been amazing to watch, just how powerful and how important it's always been important, but at this moment, even more so.
Yeah. It's probably too early to ask you this question, but I have a sense you're already thinking about it. Just how you see our sector now, Foundation Land, needing to evolve as we navigate these times, and frankly, just a very changed world.
Yeah, it is, I mean, one should always be careful after such a short time, but I will say, what's really hit me about every conversation I have is that the nonprofit sector everywhere is in terrible trouble.
Yeah.
And there isn't enough money to go around to support everything. And I think that puts a burden on us.
Absolutely.
To really think with a tip of the spear approach. Like, we need to figure out how to use our resources as effectively as possible, as powerfully as possible, finding new and more creative ways to support sectors, because we're not going to be able to fix it all just by funding in the way that we have before. And so the level of creativity, the level of energy, flexibility, foundations they're kind of slow moving.
You don't need to tell me that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a weird thing to say when you come from a university. But you really, we need to figure out a way to structure ourselves to be nimble and to meet the moment. And,
so true.
And if we don't meet the moment, then we will have failed in the work that we do.
Do you know how happy I am to hear her speak to that? It was, I came from the media world, I came from the journalism world, we're on deadline all the time. And so coming into the philanthropy sector and being sort of hit in the face with all of the process and all of the things has, been very jarring. And we've worked at it. I think we're getting better at it. But I think together and having a great partner in you, I think we'll start to move a lot more quickly. I'm looking at our team sitting here in the front row and saying, like, strap on, because we're we're moving.
Although just to reflect on it, though, it's we're doing obviously thinking about our strategy. It's not because there's a new president.
Yeah.
It's because we're in a new moment.
We are.
So the structures that existed in the past
That's
were,
right.
in order for foundations to keep the eye on the ball for the long run,
Yeah.
not to swing with the winds. There are all kinds of good reasons we structured ourselves the way we did.
That's right.
It's just that things are moving very differently than they did before.
We have to adjust. We have to meet the moment. One of the things that I have really held on to when I first joined Knight, I was given, of course, tons of archival materials about the foundation and Jack and Jim Knight. And Jack Knight very intentionally said that he didn't put a lot of constraints on the future leaders of the foundation. He said that the future leaders had to have the flexibility to operate in the context of the times. And that is the greatest blessing.
Yeah.
And the times right now just require agility.
They really do. And I will just say, I feel so lucky because I am following, I'll just say, I think, indisputably the most important figure in philanthropy in a century.
For sure.
And so it's amazing to be able to walk into a storied institution that actually lives up to its reputation.
That's right.
And is filled with astonishing talent. So, and I feel like I've got the easiest job in the world, although I'm not replacing Darren Walker. I am following Darren Walker. No one replaces Darren. But I just want to say, Darren's the first thing Darren said to me is, you got to figure out how to change for this moment, and to have that sort of
Absolutely.
blessing it was exactly what we need, because we all need to change for this moment.
Well, I'll tell you what Alberto Ibargüen said to me.
Speaking of great figures in
philanthropy, what he would say when people would say, "Oh, Maribel's got big shoes to fill," and he would just deadpan, "Well, it's a good thing she brings her own shoes." And I'll say the same thing to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, getting back to, I say getting back to, the whole topic has been, democracy, but it truly is ultimately a shared project. We talked about, yesterday morning, we talked about it as a practice. It's not a spectator sport, it's a practice. How do you think about, or how should everyone in the room think about their own individual contribution to the democratic project?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because, the rule of law seems pretty abstract.
Right.
Especially if you're trying to put food on the table or worried about health insurance, it seems a little distant from what it is. But the truth is, our laws only matter if citizens breathe life into them.
Yes.
So just think about the paper documents, the 14th Amendment. Didn't matter at all until a group of people breathed life into it during the civil rights movement. And I think we're in another one of those moments that is, law can fall quickly. Litigation is not a long-term democratic strategy. Lawyers cannot save a democracy.
Nor is it foolproof.
Nor is it foolproof, exactly. So citizens have to be able to stand up for just the basic commitments of our system. And they also just, I will just say, for the election process, getting out to vote really matters. Not spreading disinformation really matters. There are just ways in which the kind of easy habits of social media are completely destructive to having an election that works. And so finding space to give one another grace, finding space to give the system grace, having some trust in the system, that's going to matter. And people listen to each other more than they listen to anyone around them. So everyone has the power to tell the story of our democracy, to stand up for our democracy. It's just essential that people get off the chair and go do that.
That's right. Last question is, you're sitting here almost at the 100-day mark. I'm very much looking forward to our partnership and all the important work we'll do together. How can I be of greatest help to you?
Oh, well, so you already have. What I love is that we were co-conspirators really early, even before Ford was even a twinkle in my eye. But I will just say, one of the things that I love about this world is that we take turns leading, and having your wisdom and your knowledge and your expertise as we think about how we're going to support the same work that you're supporting, it's just a gift, because I can trust that you're going to do the right thing, and it's just been wonderful to have Knight as a partner always, and it's extraordinary to have you here as a partner, because I feel like together with our resources and our amazing teams that we're going to be able to do a lot of good.
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much. I am so thrilled to have you as that partner and as my friend. Heather, congratulations on joining Ford.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.